What's up guys, and welcome back to 8 Count. So today we'll be speaking about the Kell Brook situation. In the sense of his future opponents. So firstly, Kell Brook has just had a recent big win over Amir Khan, stopping him in the 6th round decision. Now, what usually happens in boxing is that when the time is right with the fighter, which is at the moment is Kell Brook, coming off such a big win, avenues start to open. It's the same as many other fighters. For instance, Chisora, when he fought Carlos Takam, no one was looking at his previous losses, but as soon as he had that big win, it just opens up a huge amount of opportunities. Even though Kell Brook was suggesting that he would probably retire if after this fight, especially after such a long career. So in the boxing world, there's 2-3 names that have popped up, and you probably guys know. One is Conor Benn. Conor Benn is an upcoming fighter, has always been sort of shouting him out, calling him out all the time, and it's one of those things where now Conor Benn wants to fight Kell Brook just to have that sort of high key name on his resume. In terms of just to get there, every young fighter is trying to do that, trying to get a really key name on their record. And the other fight is Chris Eubank Jr. Now we all know Chris Eubank Jr. and Kell Brook have been back and forth, and it will be a good fight to see. And the third option will be to retire, retire on a win, which not many fighters can do. And if a Kell Brook does that, then obviously it's going to be, fantastic for him. And it's going to be one thing that he could be able to say in long-term effects. So let's break down these fights. Let's just talk about each fight and how it comes. So Conor Benn, obviously, he just fought Chris Algieri. His last opponents were Chris Algieri, Adrian Granados, and Samuel Vargas. Samuel Vargas by TKO, Adrian Granados by unanimous decision, and obviously KO Algieri in emphatic fashion. So, personally, I wouldn't like to see him against, Conor Benn, just because I feel like Conor Benn has got that just got the edge on him right now. He's got the momentum, he's got the British fans, he's got the youngness, the freshness in his legs, to keep popping that jabber, to keep hitting with his right hands. And even though I think Kell Brook's timing was there against Amir Khan, I feel like the motivation he had against to fight Amir Khan was, was onto another level. Someone I think said during a press conference that Kell Brook came to win and Amir Khan came not to lose. That being said, Amir Khan is a great fighter. However, he was way past his best, as you could see at that time. But, it seems like Kell Brook had that time. We're not saying Kell Brook can't beat Conor Benn, but it's a, high risk, low reward fight sort of thing for him. And does he really need that beating? And if he does take it, more props to him. However, at this time of his career, trying to get the biggest paychecks. And I'm sure Eddie Hearn will offer big money to him to sort of, go out with dignity and respect and not be, a stepping stone for these young fighters. On the other hand, you have Chris Eubank Jr., who was at that fight against Amir Khan. And obviously they have a lot going back and forth. This all stemmed from when Kell Brook fought Triple G back in 2016. Initially, it was supposed to be Eubank Jr. to fight Triple G. However, due to contractual issues and, at that time, Chris Eubank Jr. and his father would call it Madonna sort of, it was never sort of placed. In Chris Eubank's defense, he said that he wanted to fight, however, there was something that wasn't set in place so the fight couldn't happen. Ultimately, what happened is Kell Brook stepped in, fought Triple G, got stopped, broke an eye socket, and probably the Dominic King threw the towel in. I think straight after the fight, Chris Eubank Jr. tweeted something along the lines of, my team doesn't have any towels in, saying that, Kell Brook's a quitter. Obviously, that was a really bad tasting with the fans, and just after that, they have been having a back and forth. I think if there had to be a fight, it would be a great domestic fight for this, just because Chris Eubank Jr. he is 33 years old, don't quote me on this, well, 32 years old, 1 year off, and he's had a really odd career as well. He's fought the top names as well. Especially like made a name for himself apart from his father. However, for him, a Kell Brook fight doesn't do anything in that sense. However, he just does it for the fan. It's a fan-friendly fight. Just because he fought Liam Williams, he fought Vanik Avadijan, and then he fought Marcus Morrison's in his last three opponents, and before that he fought Matt Korobov. So the only sort of top opponent that he has fought is Matt Korobov, which he had some freak injury, shoulder injury, and whenever he sort of stepped up, and like James DeGale, you would say he beat him. However, I think Chris Eubank Jr. really needs that statement fight with the middleweight division, the 160 weight class, whether it be the Charlo brothers or Gennady Golovkin, or probably a Canelo fight in the long side. So for him to fight him, it doesn't really do anything. However, it would be a really good sort of exposure, him beating Kell Brook and him sort of laying out that sort of that he always says he's a better fighter. But it would be interesting to see how he does that, especially with we've always knew that Chris Eubank Jr. struggles with a good jab, as we've seen him with George Groves. When that jab was popping off, and Brook has a fantastic jab with timing and power. And Brook will probably be the bigger man just because he is bigger. He's, I think when he came in against Golovkin, he weighed in 168. And Eubank only weighs in 165 on fight night. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, especially now when Kell Brook's if they do want to fight against Chris Eubank Jr., it has to be at 155. But Eubank Jr. is no, let's do this at 160. So it's gonna be a good back and forth, bids, and especially now both of them are his boxer. Hopefully we can see that fight. But if not, if they don't fight, I would suggest that Kell Brook calls it a day and hangs up his gloves, just because he's had a tremendous career, really up and down. He's had his statement win against Amir Khan that he always wanted. A lot of his career was down to promotional sort of faults as well. He wasn't getting that massive exposure. He only sort of he won against Sean Porter, which at that time Sean Porter was a killer who ran through Paulie Malignaggi, ran through Devin Alexander, and he was looking like the real big deal. And we saw how Sean Porter done afterwards, so we could see how great he was. After the Sean Porter fight, it didn't really go down. He fought the likes of Jojo Dan and Frankie Gavin. No disrespect to him, but he was really hard to get those key names at that time, such as the Mayweathers, the Furmans, the Bertos, the Guerreros at that time, Danny Garcia. He couldn't get those fights down, and then which altered him to go up to 160 to fight Gennady Golovkin, lose that fight, then come back down to defend his IBF title against Errol Spence, lose that fight again, and then once again go back to low-key fights such as Robchenko and Zerafa and Mark DeLuca, then lose against Terence Crawford in the fourth round decision, and then finally end his career with the biggest grudge match of all, fighting Amir Khan. So I would like to see him sort of just call it a day. It's been a good career. He's probably one of the my generation growing up, we've seen him come for rank. It was a really good, brilliant fight, and just call him a day, enjoy his time with his kids, and that's it really. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and be sure to tune in for more content.